Hello everybody, welcome to Overzealous While Logical, or OWL Reviews, where today I'll be bringing you book feel analysis about Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell. Eleanor Park is a YA romance, and it made me a little nostalgic for high school, but it also has some dark undertones, even though overall it's, you know, a head over heels, kind of goofy first love, but Eleanor and Park both have their fair share of personal hardship and, you know, typical teenage angst. So I think Rowell did a really good job of balancing the delightful aspects with the more serious ones. Again, I'm always reading on the train. I was reading this on the train. I'm just like blushing and hoping that no one is looking at me because I'm just like sitting there like cooing and like doing very embarrassing things because they're just like so adorable. The way that they get together, where he starts to realize that she's reading the comics over his shoulder on the bus, is just, that felt very realistic to me because, you know, Eleanor is being ostracized and she doesn't have any friends yet at that point, so she's sitting on the bus for, what, maybe half an hour with no one to talk to and nothing to do, and Park's sitting there with, you know, his headphones in and reading comics. So, I mean, I see people do this on the subway all the time, where you're always, like, glancing at the person's phone next to you to see what game they're playing, or looking at their Kindle because you want to know what book they're reading. Then when Park notices, and then the next day he just brings her a stack of comic books, and then they slowly start to talk about it, and oh, it's just so good. You have those escapes, and when you find someone else who has the same escapes with you, you want to share them. And then that's how they start getting closer and closer, and that's how they start developing feelings for each other, and I thought that was so believable. I also really liked how Rowell addresses Park being Korean American. She does it in the same way that she addresses Eleanor being very poor, in the sense that it's something that affects their behavior and their self-confidence, but it's not the central piece of their characters. It's a very large part of his character, but it doesn't take away from the love story, which is really the central aspect of the book. And speaking of Park being Korean American, I have to talk about his parents, which I found them so delightful on so many levels, especially because, you know, when you're first introduced to his dad's kind of a jerk, but then his mom is actually the one who's more of a jerk at first, especially toward Eleanor. They never did what I expected them to do, but then when they did what they did in the book, it made total sense. "You're Eleanor," she said. "She come from big family." Park shook the present gently. "I come from big family," his mom said. "3 little sisters, 3 little brothers." She held out her hand, as if she were patting 6 heads. She had a wine cooler with dinner, and you could tell. She almost never talked about Korea. "What were their names?" Park asked. His mom's hand settled softly in her lap. "In big family," she said, "everything. Everybody spread so thin. Thin like paper, you know?" She made a tearing gesture. "You know? Maybe 2 wine coolers." "I'm not sure," Park said. "Nobody gets enough," she said. "Nobody gets what they need. When you always hungry, you get hungry in your head." She tapped her forehead. "You know?" Park wasn't sure what to say. "You don't know," she said, shaking her head. "I don't want you to know. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," he said. "I'm sorry for how I welcomed your Eleanor." "Mom, it's okay. This isn't your fault." "I don't think I say this right." "It's okay, Mindy," Park's dad says softly from the doorway. "Come to bed, honey." He walked over to the bed and helped Park's mom up, then stood with his arm wrapped protectively around her. "Your mom just wants you to be happy," he said to Park. "Don't puss out on our account." His mother frowned, like she wasn't sure whether that counted as a dirty word. They're just so cute, you guys. I can't. His dad is so tender to his mom, and his mom is just trying to explain how she finally came to sympathize with Eleanor, but at the same time, you learn a lot about Eleanor even from Park's mom's perspective, like the idea of her always being hungry in her head. And I just thought that was such a well done scene, because you learn so much about all the characters in it, plus Eleanor, who's technically not in the scene, they're just talking about her. So that was my book feel analysis for Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, which if you haven't read it already, you definitely should. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, and please subscribe to my channel so you can get all my future book reviews. Thanks for watching, and happy reading!